And we're live. Hey guys, this is Reuben Dua from Dubb. This is the Action Online Summit. And today I am with Rebecca. We're going to be talking about something that I am super curious to learn about, which is digital diets. So I know that as I said that, I got a ping on my phone, of course, because there is so much noise that's happening out there. And I think that this idea of a digital diet is very interesting. And maybe some of us have to go on it. Rebecca, if you could please give us a bio on yourself and let's get into this.
Sure. First, Reuben, thank you very much for having me. This is a great opportunity, and I look forward to diving in here. So, I have been in MarTech recruitment and sales recruitment for technical roles for a long time, which really gave me a background into the digital world as it relates to, sociology and psychology as well. And now I'm in digital marketing. I spent a lot of time remote, 6 months remote, but I've been in an office position for the last 5 months probably, working on a digital transformation for Jonathan's, a technology reseller and managed service company. And I have a vested interest in this topic as it's all the more relevant to our lives right now, no matter what your work situation is or home social distancing situation is.
Yeah. What is a digital diet?
A digital diet is exactly what you would think of as your food diet. So,
Okay.
the actual average millennial spends 50 days a year on digitally consumed, completely digitally consumed. So that's obviously the most, but in 2020, the age group of 35 and up had the highest increase in their digital use.
Hmm.
So when we're looking at that, we're thinking of it as, what are you doing on your time online? Are you on your phone? Which apps are you using? Are you structuring when you're hopping online? Is it taking away from other aspects of your life, or is it bringing value to you because of the quality of content that you're following?
And what would you say the top three reasons that someone might be spending too much time online?
The top three reasons someone's spending too much time online. I think number one right now, everyone is just really trying to connect more with other people. There's a lot of people socially distanced, still isolated at home. So definitely connecting more. We're working online, we're living at home and we're working online. So, whether you're a digital marketer and you're on LinkedIn all of the time or not, you still have all these notifications popping up. And then I think the third would be as a news source to figure out what's going on in the world. And that's a pretty big topic because we all get our news from so many different sources now online.
Mm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think that people are looking for a lot of things. You know, that U2 song always goes through my head. Still haven't found what I'm looking for. You know, because we're constantly trying to navigate online for that next article, that next post, that next news bit. You know, the next new cool social network. Of course, that being Clubhouse. There's a lot of things that we're continually looking for, and it's this idea of never potentially ever finding it, right? And yes, you get that hit of dopamine when you see that thing, but then once it's gone, then you're seeking the next one. And how good for us as a people, as a species, is that? You know, if we're constantly searching for something more and we haven't necessarily find it. I put my hand up because, of course, this metaphor of reaching your arm up and always trying to extend it for that next thing in our lives. What would you say that people need to be doing to maybe find that happiness, you know, without looking for it by scrolling their thumb like this for 3 hours a day? What are some things that you might recommend to folks?
Definitely. I think that the first thing, it's important to note that we all use our digital time in very different ways because we have different personalities. So I am an overconsumer. I search anything that comes on my mind. So for me, it's important to make sure I'm making good use of my searches. But then there's other people that are really looking at how other people are living and making comparisons and always trying to better perfect their image online. And that's a really dangerous thing to do as well. So I think it's important to figure out your toxicities. Everyone's are a little bit different, and,
Hmm.
and kind of work through them and unfollow the things that make you feel a certain type of way or are just taking you away from your goals at the moment. Always checking in with your current goals for yourself and trying to align your online activity to better yourself constantly.
Mm. How interesting is it to take what we're interested in, to take what we're being served on the internet, Facebook, social media, Instagram, so on and so forth, and then to figure out where we need to go on a diet. For example, if you're a dietitian, you might ask me, "Hey, Reuben, what do you eat on a daily basis?" I might say, "Well, I eat fried foods and I eat ice cream every single day." And then you might, "Well, you know what? We should probably take that out of your diet. We should go get you eating vegetables."
Exactly.
So, what is the equivalent when it comes to the digital diet? What is right? What is wrong? What is good for us? What should we have with, moderation? I know that there's this thing that I've been seeing on TikTok, which is a link. It's a magic link. And you go to this link within your browser and it shows you all the things that Google has learned about you.
Oh yeah.
So if I'm into cake pops, because I have one next to me, and I'm into puppies and I'm into Jeep Wranglers, it's going to show that, and then it's going to serve me data content that's in some sort of an affinity audience to that. And then I might say to myself, you know what? I don't need sugar on there. I don't need this type of media. What are ways that I don't think that there's a socially acceptable way to do this, to do what you suggested, but maybe we could kind of workshop a way to actually do that. Like, how do we unfollow certain things, certain keywords, certain items, certain people? What might you recommend for us here?
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good point. I very recently went through my Facebook identity and everything that they've learned about me. And
Hmm.
you'll find wild things that you're far left and far right just because you seek opposing views on a regular
Hmm.
basis. So I think it's important to go through all of those things, clear your cookies, clear any type of advertising that was attached to you 3 years ago when you were searching for a pair of shoes or a new car, because it all tracks you and it's part of your digital footprint. So I think it's first declutter. Every platform you're going to have to do that a different way. And then one thing that I do on a regular basis is figure out what online activity I want to keep out of my digital identity and digital
Mm.
footprint. So you can always pull up an incognito search bar and hide any searches. Not that you're searching something that you're hiding, but if you don't want to constantly see advertisements for certain things, which is ironic for me to say as a digital marketer that wants you to do that, you can clear things and it doesn't stay with you as if it would on your regular search identity.
So I just searched in an incognito window how to deep fry chocolate. That way I can get my recipe, but then I don't get served tempting treats throughout the day.
Exactly.
What I'm also sharing on my screen here is and I have never looked at this. This is the first time I'm looking at this. This is the Google ad settings. This is everything about me. Here it is.
There you go.
It looks pretty spot on. It really does. Barring them like a couple of things. I mean, this is flowers. That's cool. I'm a romantic. Hedge funds, nice home improvement. That's amazing. So marital status, married, but then I also have martial arts somewhere in here, which I noticed, which is kind of cool. So this is also available on Facebook. And how intelligent is it to actually go through this and say, you know what, I don't need that in my life. Like, let me go on a diet from that. What good advice?
I mean, we do that with every other part of our lives. We clear
Mm.
out our closet, we go and we get our hair cut, we groom ourselves, and I think it's important to recognize that the digital world is now like a living and breathing thing, and how you control it to the best of your ability will bring value into your life.
Mm. Now, you mentioned previously this idea. It's actually in the title of this, the idea of being purposeful.
Yeah.
So, purpose is something that I love to talk about because For a long time in my life, I didn't have a sense of purpose, and I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants in not so good of a way. I guess it was a good way. I was traveling and having fun and stuff. But when I realized, what my purpose is, it gave my sense of being a completely different perspective. It gave me a certain level of satisfaction. And, purpose doesn't just apply to why we're here on this planet. It also applies to what am I doing for the next 10 minutes? So could you speak to that, maybe sort of guide us on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So when I was talking about that, I was mainly thinking about whatever is on my mental whiteboard, whether that's per day, per week, per month. And, this week I might have had a very stressful week and I want to go online and just look at silly TikTok videos. And that's fine. Or go on Netflix and watch a show on repeat that you've already seen before because it's just something to relax at the end of the day. And sometimes you need that. But other times you might be in a position where you want to follow thought influencers on a very particular topic that's helping you at work or in life. And that changes over time. There's not like a certain formula that every 3 weeks this will change. So it's something to check in with yourself on over and over again. For example, I use LinkedIn to follow a large audience of marketing technology professionals across the states, internationally. And it really enriches my feed where some people just use LinkedIn to connect with people that they know and they don't see it as like a learning source, really. Like some people that I work with don't see it that way at all. And I think it's important to look at all these different tools and see how you can use them and make conscious choices.
Well, I think that's very valuable because I think that when we think ourselves as a perpetual student, always looking to be enriched, and we say, what are the things that we're doing in our lives to accomplish that mission? We can make some clear decisions. What am I looking at in my LinkedIn feed? Who am I connected to? Why am I connecting to people? Who am I following? What type of content am I engaging with? That's why I love LinkedIn, because it kind of forces you to stay business. It's easy to go in the rabbit hole in some of these other social platforms. And the irony is that the deeper you go into that rabbit hole, the more information, the more content that they're going to give you on that topic. And then you might find yourself a little bit stuck trying to dig yourself out, claw yourself out of this algorithm, data set that's just giving you stuff that is not giving you enrichment in your life. So how important is it to take the advice that you mentioned, which is to go to those Google settings, to go to those Facebook settings? TikTok, I'm sure has it. I have not seen that. I'm sure they have it. And to click that X button.
Right. And for me, my number one social account tends to be Instagram. And it's very easy to get stuck in a very small bubble of who you're following. And you don't have much control over that except for following and unfollowing accounts. So there's so many rich accounts that you can follow, but I try to keep 3 topics on rotation at a time that I want to be news-based within my social platform. That way I can still keep up with the social aspect of it as well, but be enriched in other ways and follow first account news sources that are a little bit different than the news you get on ABC or, elsewhere.
Well, I think another thing that we would be remiss not to mention is this idea of how we can be better leaders. How can we support people in our team? The people that we work with. How can we, as in a supportive type fashion, how can we align ourselves to be, spending our time in the right places? What does that pie chart look like for our days? We don't have a dashboard that shows us a pie chart of how much time we're spending on productive tasks for work, learning, play, the replacement of the water cooler. And I guess my question for you is, how might you recommend that we become more purposeful or intentional with our days, on an individual basis, but then also as a collective basis, as a team? In our once a week meeting, how can we say, hey, here's some ways that I've found some increase in my productivity, or being purposeful on my tasks.
Absolutely. One thing that I think helped me is to realize when I'm hopping onto my apps and if it's keeping me up at night or, delaying me from going about my day before I go to work. And then check in with your team if you have a really cool, inspiring account that you think would be useful for everyone. Maybe set something up where you exchange thought leader accounts, something like that. You can also just check in with each other and say, how are we feeling today? What did we accomplish yesterday? If you could have done one thing differently, what would that look like? But I really think it comes from the responsibility of the employee when we're talking about the work from home scene. Let's really get ahead of this because it's not just for productivity with work. I mean, if you can't control what you're seeing and everything is just forced onto you, you're not making your own decisions at all. And that affects how you have an autonomic view of yourself as a person and as an employee. I think we feel more accomplished when we can get things done and, declutter our minds from other things.
Yeah, I mean, one of my solves is this idea of replacing consumption with creation.
Yeah.
If I ever find myself over consuming information, i.e., scrolling my thumb up and down looking for that one thing, I say to myself, what's the content that I can put out there? What's the message that I can share? What is the story that I can tell to inspire, to motivate people, to delight people, to entertain them, to educate them, to drive them results for their business, to help them overcome problems? I think about that a lot, and it actually opens up my mind, and it really helps me. And it gets me out of this living on the sidelines mentality versus being on the field. And that's really unlocked a lot of things in with me, because I know that sometimes consuming content doesn't really have an ROI. It's just a cheap thrill. Whereas creating content at least lifts your brand and it puts information out there and it can help people, frankly. So I think about that a lot.
I love that. And that's very true because I am definitely someone that will consume and consume. And when I realized that I'm doing that now, just recently, I started going to my notes and writing my own content or coming up with my own ideas off of that inspiration. But it's hard to break that habit of like, oh, I don't have enough information yet. I need more facts, I need to follow someone that knows better. When really, if we're not practicing and we're just consuming, it's a dangerous cycle.
Yeah, I mean, just to take my own advice right now, what I'll do is I'll just take a photo of our screen here, and this will be a nice Instagram story that I might share a little bit later. One of the tips that someone shared with me is that if you ever find yourself in a learning situation where you're consuming content, you're listening to a podcast, you're in a meeting, and you've learned something, don't actually go to your notes doc. Go to your stories. Go to LinkedIn, go to Instagram, and just swipe left. And then whatever is in front of you, take a picture of that and just share what you just learned, because it might be one of the most important things that you can share with someone. What I've learned from you is that we kind of need to go on a digital diet. And that's a great post for me to share with the world. And then of course, mention that with you. And that way I become a consumer and a creator simultaneously.
I love that because I think a large part of the issue is you feel like you can't share some things, but in that sense, you're not owning it, you're sharing it. And that's really nice. I will take that advice as well.
Yeah. And one thing that I'll leave you with, where I could definitely use some advice here, is I recently tried the Calm app. And there was a couple of different aspects of it that I've been trying out. Number one is the sounds, just to stop, to put the phone down. Let me just get the sounds, rainforest, waves, chill a little bit. But then the second one is the bedtime stories, which are, it's like ASMR, and it's these really soothing voices. And I've actually fallen asleep to those bedtime stories 2 times. And of course, if I hadn't fallen asleep to those, I would have been probably scrolling or maybe watching an episode or who knows what, right? So what's interesting though is because the paradox here is that when my phone is by my bedside being used for one of these meditation apps, or Calm in this case, that my phone is right next to me. Right. So how do I almost need a robot that has my phone. Like, I need to put my phone on top of my Eufy vacuum. And then after like 30 minutes, it goes outside of my room. And then that way I don't have the distraction. So I haven't solved that problem yet.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Social Dilemma documentary.
Right.
I loved that, and I'm trying to work up a business idea in relation to how to escape your own digital lens, but
Hmm.
we're not developed yet to talk about it, but that's
Nice.
really important as well. And we really just need to balance our diet. I don't think that it's helpful to look at it as like, a juice cleanse, but something
Hmm.
you need to keep on check all the time. Sometimes you consume too much of this. Sometimes you need more of this because it helps your mood and productivity.
Mm, so good. Well, Rebecca, I so appreciate you. This was such a great conversation. I think so many people can benefit from this. I think we all need to go on a digital diet. Let's just face it. Maybe we've been over consuming.
Great.
So
Thank you, Reuben.
thank you so much for joining us.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah, stick around for some notes. I'll end the broadcast now. Thanks.
Okay.